This is WAW! What a week.
What a week. PoliTricks.
Hey Tom, welcome to another edition of #PoliTricks with Botsang Modimowame Moiloa. Another incredible week of, oh my goodness, oh flip, geez, okay, he took a bullet, or he didn't take a bullet. We're going back to, listen, Botsang, it's been a wild week.
Yeah, well, the world has gone wild.
Yo.
But it's not the world of bombs and missiles, fortunately. It's things happening on the ground politically, and it's all over the world. And yeah, it started on a wrong foot with, And by the way, I must tell people that you broke the news to me when it happened.
About the Trump assassination
About the Trump
attempt.
assassination, yes.
Yes. Yeah, because I remember you couldn't believe, like, no, man, what do you mean?
Exactly.
Because we were at an event.
Yeah, anyway, let's get to the business of the day.
In fact, let's start with the ANC versus Zuma. Because a lot of people have been asking the question, but surely he should have been expelled, like, there should be like a summarily expelled, thrown off the party. But the ANC have always said that we need to follow due process. Because you don't want to leave a door open for a person to re-enter and say, but I was unfairly thrown out of the party.
Yes.
So you need to follow due process.
Look, Fresh, a very good morning, my brother, and to the followers and the viewers.
Yes, sir.
I listened and I listened to Ntate Mavuso Msimang during the course of this week on the eve of Ntate Zuma appearing or the disciplinary hearing process.
Yes, sir.
And painfully talking on how the African National Congress actually played into the hands of Jacob Zuma. He actually said he hates to say it, but on this one he must give Ntate Jacob Zuma credit for the way he has exposed the lack of decisiveness and leadership in the ANC, the lack of ANC knowing and respecting its constitution and disciplinary processes.
Sure.
It's been 6 months at the moment since they've placed him on suspension. But also I recalled what the ANC Secretary General Fikile Mbalula had said at once to say Jacob Zuma has expelled himself from the ANC. So as you are asking, why wouldn't they have imposed that or applied that initially? What it has done, it has given him mileage.
Sure.
Understand? And they only acted on Jacob Zuma on the 16th of December or after the 16th of December after he aligned himself with Umkhonto Wesizwe party. Otherwise, before that, they never even worried about the name of Umkhonto Wesizwe, which is one of the charges to say he has brought the organization into disrepute by using the name of their former Liberation Army. But when that name was registered, long before 16th of December, the ANC was quiet about it. They only jumped when Jacob Zuma aligned them. So for them, it was okay for that there should be a political party named Umkhonto Wesizwe, registered with the IEC and all that, but it must not have Jacob Zuma. The process for me, I think, is just a formality. The outcome of the disciplinary hearing, it's going to be, look, they're going to expel him from the party. I think that will be the most sensible and logical thing to do for them. They're going to expel him. What will be the purpose? What will be the reason for him to stay for the ANC? They don't have any reason on table. But also, the fact that they decided to do this, what do you call it, on visual.
It was a virtual disciplinary.
Yes, I think.
Although JZ wanted to come in, obviously.
Yes, and he didn't decide to even appear on that. He sent Tony Ngeni as his proxy. But I'll tell you why he did that with the proxy. He has already, said words like, mummed words like, he may take this matter to court. I think the reason that he did not appear, it is because when he goes to court, they will say, but you endorsed that process. You were there, you were present, not a proxy and things like that. Look, I think it's just a mileage and waste of time. Jacob Zuma has left the ANC. He is focusing his energy and effort in, growing. It's no longer even building Umkhonto. It's growing it now because the parties that exist. I've looked at every member of parliament of MK. When they rise in parliament, all of them, they pay homage to President Zuma, Malala, and being sent by him. Although his argument, if he goes to court, maybe, if after being expelled, maybe But I'm not an MP from controversies. I just align myself with them like any other member of the ANC have aligned themselves with other, tripartite alliance members. But look, this is a waste of time. I think it's a waste of time. I think it's a waste of energy. The boat have sailed.
Sure.
And I think the outcome of the DC is going to expel him. The sooner they make a decision, the better. Some people were worried if it's going to damage the ANC any further. No, it won't.
The horse bolted.
Yeah, exactly.
Now you're just trying to fix the stable.
Exactly.
There's nothing more you can do about that bolted horse, unfortunately.
Yeah.
And even at a level of, if he was to say he's done nothing wrong, he's still done enough to justify them saying, we don't want you anymore.
Anymore, yes. So they should just put this thing behind them and move on.
Or he could be difficult and say, no, let's go to court.
I think he's going to be difficult and say they must go to court. I think
You can't expel me.
He's going to keep them very busy.
I'm a member of good standing.
Yeah,
Good standing.
yeah. But anyway, Fresh, I think Malala must focus on controversies.
Sure. Let's talk Nehao.
Yes.
Nehao was saying that GNU is a pact of elites. Pleading the ANC and its allies of members.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
It's very interesting. And now, remember, it's one of the biggest federation of COSATU affiliates inside the ANC. They are very big. They're just like SATU, the teachers,
Sure.
So they had their, congress or conference this week, and it was very, very interesting that the leader of Nehao, in opening remarks, uttered that statement to say they are losing members, they are bleeding members due to the ANC aligning itself with the capitalist Democratic Alliance, which is anti the workers' rights and anti the policies that they have fought for over the years. 30 years and how has been existing. And they are saying they are losing, and therefore they don't understand why would the ANC associate themselves with a political party that is, far right or center right, when there are political parties that are center left or even center in this instance in order to come to power. So Nehao's lament is the ANC is not only the ones who are losing members, even its affiliates.
Sure.
And in the middle of all that, the South African Communist Party as well came into the fore. One of the leaders of the Communist Party, went to the same extent of saying, no, but we all did not support what the ANC has come into. And he even went to, it's Solima Paila. He even went to an extent of saying he's talking he has been having meetings with the EFF to try and salvage this whole thing. Sure. Now I'm asking myself, Fresh, what is the difference between what Jacob Zuma did and what Solima Paila and Nehao are saying? Engaging other political parties to say, let's find a way. Understand? Well, what is the difference? I also sat down and thought of...
Surely if it's happening within the ambit of we are now a government of a national unity. We're trying to find each other so that we can better serve our people. Isn't that the difference?
No, that's not, because Solima Paila is not in government. He's a leader of the South African Communist Party. He goes and he talks with the EFF, which is not in the GNU. Is the one of the opposition parties.
No, but isn't he trying to have them find one another with the EFF so that they can maybe then turn around and say to, for instance, the DA?
No. According to his words, it's saying the ANC has lost the plot.
Sure.
The ANC has lost direction. The ANC, even its policies that are more close to the policies of the DA, it's not a socialist policies that the South African Communist Party or Nehao are subscribing to.
Sure.
And we all know that the DA is anti-socialism, it's nationalism as well as communism. But again, I don't understand members of the ANC when they are lamenting today with the conduct of their leadership, because the ANC leadership has been consistent for all these years to be anti-socialism. From Nelson Mandela time, they never actually had socialist policies since they became a political party. They never advanced any Africanist, nationalist or socialist policies in the ANC. So it is just that at a moment they needed another political party with the same policies as them to can form government, and the DA was the closest they could do. I have said before, it will make sense before they even agreed. You know, I said it will make sense if the ANC goes with the DA, not because it's good for black majority people, not it's good for history, but it makes sense because of what is on paper.
Sure.
When you look at the policies of the ANC and the DA, it will look like they were written by the same students in the same classroom. And I don't know why the so-called leftists and nationalists and socialists within the tripartite alliance and the so-called mass democratic movement waking up now to realize that the ANC has been aligned with the former National Party. They swallowed it. They've been aligned with the Democratic Alliance. Their policies are along the same lines. I don't know why they're waking up now. But now it's not impressed. They were very vocal with the way the ANC, you know, in the past week has conducted itself. So, you know, what does it say to me? The damage and the dents to the African National Congress are continuing even after the formation of the government. It's clear sign
So
that
they're deeper than previously thought.
Yeah, they are deeper, and they are continuing to be deepened. You know, and the whole chasm, the gap is widening as well. And for me, it says a lot, you know, towards the local government elections, how some members of the ANC are going to start shifting away from the ruling or the former, liberation movement.
Sure. May we move on to the VBS looting?
Oh, fresh. I need strong coffee for that one.
I remember Terry Motaung's findings
Yes.
about the looting of the VBS Bank, implicating politically connected people. And then Chairperson Matodzi, who is going to prison for 15 years for his role, obviously in a plea deal.
Yes.
Now there's an affidavit that has been leaked. And the NPA want to look into this leak and possibly take legal action. Because obviously it's a leak.
Fresh.
But that affidavit is basically Matodzi singing like a canary about the people implicated.
Look, first of all...
And the biggest noise has been around the EFF and also around DG... Mohoje's involvement.
Yes, the former DG of the Treasury.
Yes. Dondo Mohajani, yes.
Fresh, first of all, with the National Prosecuting Authority saying they are going to check who leaked the document. If you have a document that is classified as secret or top secret inside the government department, but you are not the only person who has that document. The owner of the document themselves, Matodzi, has the document. Obviously, his lawyers have the document. Where do you start investigating
Absolutely.
there? And again, this is in the interest of the public. Why would they call it leaked when in this case it's a public case? There was a report of that you mentioned that came. Now, it may be confidential because it appeared on media and it landed on the people like Botsang's hands before the matter was before the court or before the guy was wearing orange overalls. But that's neither here nor there.
Sure.
My issue with the VBS saga is one, and this is where the media is playing a dirty role of politics as well. We have been having a lot of high-level crimes in South Africa. And we'll come back to that, the Steinhoffs, the PIC, ESCOM, and all that. But we see how the white-owned media, especially the Daily Maverick and the News 24, are pushing this thing towards the EFF. Now, that's where it becomes political.
Sure.
Because as if the EFF leaders and the organization, because according to Matodzi's affidavit now, it's not only one of the leaders, Floyd Shivambu, who received the money through his brother. There's also allegations that the EFF itself as an organization was getting $1 million every month, towards them stop criticizing VBS for sponsoring Jacob Zuma with an 8 million loan. But there's many other people mentioned there.
But weren't the words of Advocate Dalimpo that it was a donation?
Yes,
and that how were we to know that they were looting?
Yeah, like any other donations.
Isn't that a fair assertion, though?
I think it's fair, and Dr. Blayton Zimande, as well from the South African Communist Party, came with the same statement to say, no, we didn't know that this money was coming from looted money. We wouldn't know if somebody is donating. What would aid the NPA in this instance? And we must treat Matodzi's affidavit as an allegation now until. So what the MPA is supposed to do is to go and investigate, do the paper trail, follow the story and follow the monies. I do not know why are they still mentioning Floyd Shivambu via his brother, because what happened in the past after the report, the audit report and the investigative report, if my memory serves me well, Floyd Shivambu's younger brother, whose company was formed and paid by VBS.
Skamega.
Yes, there was a stage that they recouped. They even volunteered to can give back some of the money. The MPA recouped the money of VBS at that time through its investigation. That's the first part. Whether the AFF got donations like the SACP and anybody else, was it illegal? What we should be focusing on is, was it illegal for them to receive donations? Were those donations declared as prescribed by the Electoral Act or the political parties, governing? Those are what we should be focusing on.
Sure.
But this thing of what do you call it, and VBS Fresh, the sad part about it and the disturbing part about it, despite where the media is focusing, it's primarily the fact that everybody is focusing on who benefited and nobody is focusing on those who lost their investment. That's an old bank, that was formed during the Homeland State of Venda. Some people's pension funds, who were still in employment or who decided to save their money, was still sitting at the VBS. And some people, it's small-scale business people, the SMMEs, informal sectors of business. They invested money there. And nobody is talking about the compensation of those people, because that was a legal bank. My question becomes, what is the insurance of banks in this instance that should have protected the investments and the monies of the people? And I lamented when VBS was led to collapse, because its leaders, or supposed to be leaders, they collapsed the bank, not only by donating to politicians and political parties. They actually stole money from the banks, from the chairman of the board to the CEO to the CFO and all that. But nobody is talking about the regulator of banks, whether it's the South African Reserve Bank, whether it's the treasurer or whoever. When banks go bankrupt or financial institutions, there's normally what we call a reinsurance. And I know that because, as a child, my dad worked for a company which used to be called Munich Reinsurance. Actually, its office is in Africa, where Lutuli House is now.
Oh, nice.
It was Munich Reinsurance,
what are the
there, opposite the Star. My dad, and I got to learn as a child what is a reinsurance. So it's an insurance company that insures financial institutions, because they also have risks. So does the world want to tell us today that VBS Bank did not have security bonds, or was it not insured in case of instances like this, that the people's monies were safe? And we are silent about it as a nation, to say people have lost money, and those who ate and stole the money, they can go to jail with plea bargains. And that's another issue. The first one who went to jail with a plea bargain was their CFO, Mr. Trotter. And it has been quiet. Mr. Trotter pleaded guilty. He was sentenced to 10 years, 3 years suspended in 2020. So it was 7 years in 2020. It's in 4 years' time, he's out. He was released in May. The media was quiet about it. And people will say, we ban too much things on race. There are two criminals here. White-collar criminal, the chairperson of the board, Matodzi, and the CFO of VBS, which is Mr. Truter. Mr. Truter pleaded guilty, started singing like, firstly, in 2020, he was sentenced to prison. We were all in jail in 2020 anyway due to COVID-19. We were all in jail. So he didn't lose that year. So he started serving his sentence, technically 2021, 2022, 2023, 2025. After 3 years, he's out. Now he's going to enjoy his millions, because nothing was recouped from him at that time. Nothing was taken from him. Understand? He just pleaded guilty. He started singing. Now Matoti has realized that, my body here was released in May. The media has been quiet. The Truther has been outside, free man, since May. They only make noise about it now because Matosi decided to follow his core criminal, core convict, and he started singing. I don't know how many other people are going to plead guilty to say, we have charged the money. I mean, I looked at the amount of money that Matoti is said to have used buying, Bentleys and helicopters and things like that. 350 million rands. How do you consume in such a short space of 350 million and that the NPA or the Hawks or government SIU, Asset Forfeiture Unit, are unable to recoup some of those things? No matter how many helicopters you bought. And funny enough, I spoke to somebody from Venda during the week, and I'm like, why a helicopter where this guy was sitting? We're just laughing. By the way, it's a Limpopo thing. I was not even aware that to own a helicopter in Limpopo, it's a top of the north thing. And now thinking of it, I'm thinking, I've got a colleague who had his wedding with a helicopter. I've attended several funerals there. At some stage, Tito Mboweni was there as the governor of the Reserve Bank. He landed with a helicopter at the graveyard. So I don't know why is this opulent lifestyle that forces our professionals. Mato is a professional. He's a chartered accountant, 47-year-old at the moment. So when he committed these crimes, he was in his early 40s and he was already a CA. And who didn't want to be a chairperson of the board of a bank?
Sure.
It's some of the things that, baffles me with people who are corrupt and who steal from the poor. And that other thing about corrupt people, they never steal from the rich. They never steal from the rich. They always steal from the poor. Why don't they steal amongst each other? Then it's okay, we didn't care as a nation. Now you've got gogos and old men in Venda who are now bankrupt and broke and they can't fend for their kids today because of some people's selfishness. But the country is not fair.
Sure. The
justice system in South Africa, and I want to say it, very carefully, as people always say, it favors the rich or the politically connected. Now that you can go and plead guilty, there's two ladies, for example, why I'm mentioning this. There's two ladies in Qeberha who, during the course of this week, they were sentenced to 15 years each, effective jail term. For doing what? For defrauding ABSA about R1 million. They were just bank tellers, bank, the supervisor of the bank, they defrauded ABSA R1 million. It didn't even reach them up to almost 970,000. They were sentenced to 15 years in prison for defrauding 1 million. Now somebody steals 395 million, is sentenced to 15 years. He will be back with us in the next 4 years. And this is where the justice system is unjust. You understand that those with money, those with political connections, they can go and talk for themselves. They can go and plead. Exactly. So we are actually encouraging with our justice system that people can go and steal and loot from public coffers and say, yes, I did. Where is the money? Where is the recovery of what we have looted? And then we are still going to fund him in jail. We took care of Trutter in jail for the last 4 years. We fed him. He steals from us. We take him to our prisons. We feed him. We give him medicine. Sometimes they even come out with bursaries out of our prisons. And this is the situation we are faced with. We cannot call that a just system. And we can't say the system is just when somebody comes and steals your car and he goes to jail, and when he's in jail, your taxes feed that person, or murders, people outside, or rape people, and then we feed that. It cannot be a just system.
Absolutely.
No.
Now let's talk about Treasury DG Dondomo Hajani. So how was he involved, according to this affidavit?
Okay, according to the affidavit, they bribed him with R1 million.
Okay.
That's what Matot is saying.
Okay.
But again, and we should also, inform our viewers that, by the way, an affidavit still needs to be tested in court. It does not mean it's that what is there is the truth. It must be tested in court. So he was the Director General of the Reserve Bank. And at that time, if you recall what was the problem with VBS, some municipalities, my home municipality, West Rand District Municipality in Randfontein, was the very first municipality, and I don't know why, Fresh. Look, Randfontein is in the West Rand of Joburg. Look where VBS is, from Venda to Sandton. Why did they have to start in my hometown? But nonetheless, Some municipalities started banking money with VBS, official government money, municipal money.
And municipalities legally are not allowed to do that.
Yes.
They're supposed to only use national banks.
They're supposed to use what we call commercial banks.
Traditional banks.
Traditional banks, yes. Yeah. So they're not allowed to use the mutual banks and, Stockfell banks and all like that.
Yeah.
And that's where the problem started. Now, when this came to the attention of Treasury, which I say, the Treasury is lying to us. I don't think they were not aware until Jacob Zuma took a loan and banks started complaining to say, go and check where does VBS get money from.
So this was a loan to repay for Nkandla.
Yes, it was an 80 million loan to repay Nkandla. Zuma went to the bank and borrowed money like all of us. Again, Jacob Zuma is causing a stir. This VBS thing came out because of Jacob Zuma. He decided banks don't want me. Remember, banks had banned him.
Sure.
And he had a mortgage bond with Netco. So he borrowed money to can pay Netco or Netbank out. So he borrowed from VBS. And that's when the investigation on VBS started coming out. And Dondo Mohajane was the Director General of the Treasury in South Africa at that time.
So according to the affidavit, what are they claiming? That because there was this flagging of you're not allowed to deposit at a non-traditional bank.
Yes.
We need to keep them quiet there.
Keep them quiet. Yeah. The purpose to the allegation that they gave Dondo Mohajane R1 million was to say, please don't push this thing of municipalities must take their money away from VBS. So they were.
So basically, don't close our taps.
Don't close our taps. Yes, that was the purpose. He does not deny that there were engagements.
Yeah. In fact, he says, I was trying to stop this thing.
Stop this thing, yes. He says actually the nation must thank him because he responded with a video, and I'll come back to that, a video to say, no. I met these people like I meet all other people who are interested to do business with government. And some people are questioning where were they meeting. That's another thing. Why did you meet them in their offices? Why did you meet them in restaurants? And why didn't you meet them? They should come to the Reserve Bank. If I need help from the Reserve Bank or from the Treasury, I will go to them. They don't come to me.
Yes.
For me, that is a very questionable point. Somebody may just dismiss it. Pardon me. Somebody may just dismiss it and say, no, but there's nothing that dictates where meetings should take place. But a meeting of this nature, and I come from a public service background, a meeting of this nature, the board of a bank meeting the board of the Treasury, or if you call it that, the executive of the Treasury, why would this meeting become so informal that it even takes place in private houses, of the either of the two, either the banker or the Treasury? And for me, that's a concern.
Sure.
The evidence that they gave him or bribed him with $1 million, it's up to them now to go and prove it in court.
No, because we're told the money was channeled through a charity run by the daughter of a minister.
Yes.
And I think Amabungani, the investigative journalist group, are saying that they've managed to trace the money to this charity.
Yes.
But there's no link yet to the DG.
Yes, to the DG. Yes, that's what they are saying. I will not rely mainly on the investigative journalism of Amabungani. Look, they've had very good cases that they've presented to the country, but it has become clear for me that they also have their political targets.
Sure.
Understand? Because the good work they are doing when they are targeting corrupt ANC leaders and members and employees, they are not doing the same with the DA, they are not doing the same with Steinhoff, with Marcus Jooste. Amabungani was not doing the same. Nonetheless, and they have the ability and the capabilities of doing that. Nonetheless, Dondo has denied. The NPA will have to go with the Hawks and whoever to go and chase the paper trail. Unless this money was exchanged in suitcases, that's a different ball game, and somebody comes to attest to that. But if it was transferred through banks to who and the links, I think the government is capable of doing that. But the former DG, he says even when they tried to convince him, even when they tried to say, no, but don't shut this down and all that, he refused to abide to that. And actually, he even referred to a Treasury instruction that was released during his tenure to all municipalities, that those who have been banking their monies with non-commercial banks and the common banks or the known banks, they must stop that act. And you see, there's a secular to that. That's something to his advantage. But you know, where there's smoke, there's fire, understand? So let the law enforcement entities do their job.
Sure.
Only after this matter has been investigated, has been before the courts, we don't have to take sides and believe Matotsi. And also fresh, you know, when you make statements, somebody will say it's the last kick of a dying horse. Why would Matotsi just go and pinpoint people like that? Maybe frustrated, maybe you know, painting people back, trying to make a case himself.
Yeah.
But one good investigators will tell you that, you know, this brings me. And also, if I was Tondo Mohajan, I would have not done. I always tell people, there's an English saying, the one who defends himself accuses himself. You have not been approached by the Scorpions or the Hawks or NPA. Respond within the line of. Because this thing was in the media because of a leak. So I would have waited until I'm approached, then I respond properly to the authorities. But in the middle of this whole VBS thing, the revolutionary and the rebellious Leboga Maile of Joburg, of Gauteng, the Gauteng province, is now the MEC of Finance in Gauteng, with the rebellious ANC in Gauteng, under Panyaza Lusufi. Did you hear that they declared that they're going to form a provincial bank? A public bank.
Yes.
You know what does it say to me? It's response to say, why are we being forced by the Treasury and the Reserve Bank as provincial governments as well as municipalities to bank with the major 5 commercial banks? Why? Or the commercial banks as defined by the South African Reserve Bank? Why are we being forced? Why are we not creating what the EFF has been crying about, to create a state-owned bank? I don't know. We must watch how it's going to unfold, that Gauteng will have a Gauteng province state bank. And will it be allowed to bank monies of other municipalities, other provinces, other government departments? It's going to be very interesting that a provincial government has taken a resolute position to say they are forming a state bank. Well, it's a state provincial bank. When the national government is failing to do that. For many years, people have been crying that we don't even have a central bank.
Sure.
We are failing to even create a development bank or a state bank where state entities, state departments can bank with a state bank. Why should they take money to the commercial banks? And this is going to be very interesting, because it's a response to the VBS thing. And again, Fresh, we spoke about this before. After 30 years of demon crazy, as I call it in South Africa, 30 years, there is not a single commercial bank owned by black people in this country. Not even one. It was never there. Even the African Bank, using the name African Bank, was never owned by African people. The founders, like the late Dr. Mutsunyane and all that, they could have been the brains, the founders, the chairpersons, but they don't own the bank. It's owned by white people. How is the government comfortable that government departments are, you know, we are running over 3 trillion government budget, and it's sitting at commercial banks that are not aiding the state in times of crisis. We've got floods in KZN, we've got fires in KZN and floods in Cape Town. Where are the commercial banks that are making millions, if not billions, of rands out of interest because of state monies banking with them? You understand? And I think it's about time that the South African government should have a state-owned bank that will take the monies of the state and the public into the state-owned bank. There's no reason we shouldn't have that. If black people who are multi-millionaires and billionaires like the Mutsipes, look, I know that he's involved in, what is this new bank that is competing with Investec? There's a new bank that Motsepe is involved in. But it is not a fully fledged commercial bank in a sense that it's going to compete with ABSA, FNB, Nedbank, and so forth. Why? How are we arriving at a stage that not one black person qualifies to can own a license of a commercial bank? But again, Who is the register of the banks? Is the South African Reserve Bank. Who are the owners? Foreign white German family owns more than 60% of the Reserve Bank. So they are not going to give license to African people. And these are some of the things that I've noticed parties like EFF, Umkhonto weSizwe, they are bringing into the table inside Parliament now.
Sure.
And trust me, because of that, we are going to see a number of changes and amendments of the Constitution during this administration.
Let me tell you one thing I'm not fully grasping. I mean, you look at this affidavit, Hamatodzi, and the noise right now is primarily around Floyd and Juju.
In Juju, yes.
And Mogajani.
Yes.
The billions are gone. Where are the other names? Where are the other people?
Yes. That's what the media is thinking.
Where are the other implicated?
Why are we not mentioning them? And look, with Floyd, they were talking his brother 16 million. EFF was getting 1 million per month as a donation for a number of years. And Dondo Mohajan is only 1 million that is being mentioned. There's many other people involved there, and nobody's saying anything about them. This is a political plot. My view is, I think the VBS thing has come back to the surface, not because the oils of justice, the wheels are moving and they are all well. No, I think it's a whole plot to divert attention. First is to get to Julius and the EFF as a political party. Them sitting in the opposition benches, they will bring back the Pala thing to the fore.
Sure.
In Parliament. They will do it. They will get the support of Umkhonto weSizwe. The ACDP has already mentioned, and what is the Freedom Front Plus? They've already mentioned that they will retable this matter, but they will need a majority to can be able to get a vote. You know what it's going to do? It is going to expose the DA and the ANC.
Sure.
That's the fear. This whole thing is to cover the DA and the ANC mirage, to say should Pala and other matters like the Steinhoff matter be tabled in Parliament. It is going to expose the DA, which has been in the forefront of anti-corruption in Parliament, but now because they are joined at the hip with the ANC, they are in bed together, it's going to be a situation where we are going to sit and watch how the DA will vote when this thing is tabled. And you know what is going to be interesting now? Most of the votes in Parliament are not going to, we are not going to see people who say we want votes in secret.
Sure.
The political strategy of Umkhonto weSizwe and EFF is going to be, no, let's all vote in the open. So that we must show you how these people are corrupt and they've been misleading the nation and they've been lying to the nation.
Sure.
And because if it's voting open, we'll see which of those 400 members will be voting which direction. Is the DA going to vote for with the ANC to save President Ramaphosa? That's what we want to see.
Sure.
Is the Freedom Front Plus going to protect their ministerial position and abandon some of these things? Another interesting element of this whole thing is the AfriForum in the forefront of this. Because the AfriForum is already talking about laying charges against Julius Malema and Fred Shivambo in the EFF. Why is Freedom Front, not Freedom Front Plus, AfriForum, leaving all other people out? All other people who immorally, illegally benefited from the collapse of the VBF. Why are they focusing on that? I am not defending, and I'm not saying, the old school that says, I stole because I saw fresh stealing and getting away with it. I'm not saying that. And I'm not saying people should not be prosecuted for the VBS saga. I'm saying let the law be applied across the board.
Full stop.
Full stop. That's it. Let everybody face the music.
In fact, before we move to global issues, let's just stay in Parliament quickly. About 2 days ago, in Parliament, Minister Mackenzie, in his, I think, was it his budget report?
Budget vote, yes.
The budget vote,
yes.
Spoke about how Distem is staying.
Yes.
It's part of the sacrifice that was made. When you negotiate a settlement, you give some, you take some.
You take some, yeah.
So as much as the EFF feel like Distem must go, Minister Mackenzie was saying that Distem is here to stay, unfortunately. And we will sing louder every time you guys sit down when we sing Distem.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that?
Look, he has become a politician in 1 week. Yeah. Maybe it has been he has become he spoke like a statesman, like a politician.
Yeah.
And I'm surprised he's wearing suits and ties in Parliament. Nonetheless, having now listened to Gayton McKenzie, Minister Gayton McKenzie, and I've applied my mind. I'm one of the people, I have to confess, that whenever the national anthem was being performed, I will sing only the vernacular one. That's me. I refuse to. Until a few years back, I still don't know the lyrics. But when you, and this is what Gayton McKenzie is saying, despite that, we have moved on.
Sure.
Yes, this term was there for the apartheid, but we took a part of it, like we took a part of the so-called liberation movement, national anthem. We merged them and we put the English version and we moved forward. We have moved. We are now focusing on the future. I think he's making a very good statement there. But from my side, when you look at the part of this term, what I don't like about it, it is actually talking about land ownership. It is talking about those who are in possession of the land. And for me, it's very thorny to say we are not party to the land ownership in South Africa. If this land was being shared amongst the South Africans equally and in accordance with the population demographics and historically as well, then I would not have a problem whether you sing this term or the national anthem is Sizulu, Sesotho, or Afrikaans. I will not have a problem with that. I have a problem that that part which sounds very good, which is important, it is actually, and people may just say this is just a national anthem. I like what Gayton explained, to say you accepted the flag, the rainbow flag, and now you want to reject the rainbow national anthem. He spoke like a diplomat there to say the national anthem cannot be divorced from the national flag. They go together. Understand? And I think, look, as a minister, remember I was talking now as a minister of culture now, the cultural part of the portfolio. And to be honest, that's a very clear assessment. He learned very fast to can defend his role. What the EFF must do, and everybody else who doesn't like me, the national anthem, we must go and contest elections and change the constitution and change the laws. And then what should we do? Remember, our Bill of Rights protect the minority in South Africa. What are we going to do? Are we going to change and remove this term? What will it say to the Afrikaner community? Are we saying we are suppressing them? Are we saying we are not recognizing and regarding them as South Africans? And I'm not, those who know me that I'm a Pan-Africanist and I still cry for the land, they will say, are you now advocating for the Afrikaner people? And I said, no, I'm not. I am interpreting the current situation in the country to say they form part of the nation.
We can't bury history.
We can't bury history, and it's history we have learned from it. Let us correct. Actually, Fresh, talking about it, I've been thinking a lot with the politics in South Africa. I would rather trust the Afrikaners, the so-called Boers, than these all other imperialists from England and Germany and France and Portugal and the US coming to settle down here and taking over the shores of Cape Town. The so-called Afrikaners, and I don't even like calling them Afrikaners because it means Africans, and we are calling ourselves black and they are calling themselves Africans. If you look at it, they have been loyal as much as they are offsprings of colonial settlers in this country. They fought the battles. They fought Africans. They fought the British. They were defeated somewhere. They fought back. They won some. But they stayed. They stayed with the apartheid government. Understand? They stayed with the new democratic government. They are staying. They are not taking their wealth back to Holland where they can trace their roots or wherever. They are staying here. They are loyal to the cause. What they should be changing is their mindset, their racism and all that. But for me is if they work for the benefit of the country, first they will work for themselves. That's natural. It's in the human nature that you will work for yourself first. What do you call it? The Afrikanerdom. What do you call it when people try and work for themselves and develop themselves and their culture and tradition? It is in a human nature. If we fail to preserve our Botswana culture and our cultural activities and rituals and norms, if we failed, we cannot point fingers at people who have pride in what they are doing, as long as they don't do that at our expense. You understand? We allowed, for example, Orania to happen. I want the EFF to say, but we don't recognize Orania. Go and march to Orania. Go and occupy Orania. As much as you have been saying people must occupy land, and let the EFF wear red overalls and go and erect shacks in Orania. For me, that would be a rebellious situation. But to say remove it on paper while in Parliament, while practically it's happening, the Afrikaners are not going to stop singing the stem.
Absolutely.
And in this instance, we are talking a national position. We are not talking liberation movement and the struggle position. I know in EFF rallies, they don't sing the stem.
Sure.
And they've been very consistent with that from the formation of the EFF. That's fine. I know that Afrikaners, like for example, Freedom Front Plus and other places like AfriForum and all that, when they've got their events, they don't sing the Setswana, Sesotho, isiZulu vernacular, as you call it, a part of the national anthem. As long as they don't offend me, as long as it doesn't harm me, I am not going to waste efforts. Culture, language are very important for a nation. A nation that loses its language, that's the first. Now, the Afrikaners are not going to let this go.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So before we cross the Atlantic, let's just go up the continent to Central Africa.
Yes. What happened there?
Where, unlike other African leaders, guys are getting 99% of votes.
When you said Central Africa, I thought you were talking about the country.
No, not the Republic. The center of the continent.
Yes, the Great Lakes.
Absolutely. So when you look at the elections in Rwanda and the fact that only 2 opposition members were allowed,
yes,
generally opposition is suppressed. Is Rwanda democracy?
Zero, the one of the highest got 0.5%, the other one 0.3 point something. Look, Fresh, first of all, you know what I said? Why is President Kagame still calling for elections?
Sure.
I was in Kigali when he became the president. The same year he became president. I don't even know how Kigali looks like today. He's still the president. Why is he still calling the elections? You know, some political analysts said to me, for ticking the box. I'm like, ticking it for who? For who? There's nothing wrong in saying, I'm a dictator or I will rule this country alone. My people want me. Yeah. How do your people want me? 99.5% of them have voted for me. Why do you still waste time and tick the box, Mr. Captain President Kagame? Yeah. Just sit there until you die or until the people rebel like in Kenya and say we don't want to anymore. You know, I don't think there's democracy in Rwanda. There is no democracy in Rwanda. There's no way. There's absolutely no way that over and over, nobody reaches even 1%.
Sure.
Those 2 opposition parties, even if you combine them, do you know that they don't make 1%?
Yeah.
They're still below 1%. Yeah. Why waste resources and waste time? I think this is one of the examples in the continent that Africa is reinventing itself. It's generally rejecting democratic processes. It is still vibrant in countries like South Africa and your motherland. Also, they are going through that process in Botswana. There's elections everywhere.
October.
Yes, but the election period has opened.
Sure.
Also, there's issues there that I'm following, but there's no democracy in Rwanda. President Kagame is a dictator. He's the lifetime ruler of Rwanda. It seems the Rwandese people are very happy with him. Somebody may say...
But are those who are not happy with him allowed to say they're not happy with him?
Look, we have seen what has happened historically with those who challenge him, who opposed him. There's allegations of assassinations, jailed. Some people were thrown into jail without proper trials. And look, he's denying that, but what is happening on the ground is a totally different ball game. Understand? So there is no democracy in Rwanda. I can put my head on the block to say, and those who go to vote, I also think they are fearing, they are panicking. You know, the intelligence system in that country, I can tell you, it's it's more linked to the military.
Sure.
And they know everything that is happening in Rwanda. And also, to rule and govern with an iron fist. You understand? People are scared. People are fearing. He reminds me of the old days, Robert Mugabe, that people were saying, no, you stand against Mugabe, you'll be thrown in jail or you'll die or you'll disappear. The same thing is happening in Rwanda. And this may be accusations that are unfair because nobody has come and provided material evidence. But if you do your dirty job clean, Is there something like that in English? You
Yeah.
know, you do your dirty job clean, and nobody will have material evidence of what you have done. President Kagame has come and said,
You cover your tracks.
yes, you people in South Africa has been accusing me of killing Rwandese in South Africa in hotels, but nobody has come and proved
Sure.
that my people have done it. You understand? So if he's so good, or they are so good, to can do it as far as in South Africa, imagine now in Kigali when you have to go and vote.
Sure.
And yeah, that's one of the challenge. And yeah,
Do you think we have double standards when it comes to rulers such as Kagame?
when you
That-
say we, are we meaning South Africa or the world generally?
Just generally Africans, generally Africans, in terms of how we view certain leaders and their leadership style.
Yeah.
That depending on whether we like the iron fist of this person,
Yes,
then
yes.
by a good leader,
Yeah,
his people are benefiting.
Yes.
Or his people are benefiting, but at what expense?
At what expense,
At
yeah.
what cost are people benefiting, for instance?
Look, somebody may sit here and say Rwanda is a better country than it was. Obviously, it will be a better country because it was the current government was presented by a war. So
Sure.
I always say, and I've said it here, even with South Africa, you can't compare the past. We can't say the current South Africa is better than the apartheid South Africa, or it's worse, because you are comparing two completely different things. But when you suppress the voices of the people, when the people who differ with you cannot express their voices and difference like us, we can do in South Africa at the moment without fear. Then it's an unjust kind of a situation. And I think the African Union, because Rwanda falls, if we use Rwanda as an example, falls under the EAC, the East African Community. The African Union, which is the mother body overseeing ECOWAS, East African Community, SADC, and others, I think they are not being fair. Because they've got these dictators who are ruling with an iron fist, and they're being romanced. Everything is okay. It's President Kagame is doing good for his country. Then let us say democracy and freedom of speech. It's a useless thing, whether it's there or not. Let's remove it from our books, because democracy and freedom of speech and human rights form part of the African agenda.
Absolutely.
You understand? Now, if it forms part of the African agenda, but it's applied thoroughly somewhere, and in other countries it's not, what are we saying about that? We have seen it happening in Zimbabwe. We went on a silent diplomacy as the neighbor. At some stage we were even chair of SADC. We went under President Mbeki. We applied silent diplomacy. The late Morgan Shangirai was beaten, jailed, and things like that, and it was okay.
In fact, many would argue Morgan Tsvangirai won that election,
Yes.
but didn't become president.
But didn't become the president, you understand? In Rwanda, I mean, people are going to come now, SADC observer mission, EAC observer mission, and they're going to come and say they were free and fair because there were no fights, no skirmishes, people queued. They voted. One day, everything was done. One day, you understand? So I think African leaders has double agendas. And in some instances, I mean, I look at the situation in Botswana, the what do you call it, the opposition have now formed a coalition. Because the election period has commenced this past week, and the elections, I think, they are in August, October, and the opposition has formed a coalition. They're going to challenge the ruling party, which has been ruling since, I think, since independence. 1966, yeah. It's very interesting to observe now, because they are united to try and oppose the party. But they lasted there. I think also what helped the ruling party in Botswana was the change of leadership from various regions. So it was not the Hamas only, you understand? It moved from even people opposing each other inside the organization, just like in South Africa. The change of power, it was not tribalistic. Yes. It moved from hands to hands. People, Jacob Zuma was different from Thabo Mbeki, you understand? But they maintained to run the ANC to rule or govern or misgovern the country. And I think that's the situation in Botswana. Let's make it healthy. But look, Botswana is sitting with 2 million people, very peaceful people. And I also think the political parties in Botswana, they've got a common goal towards the country. There's not much different if you look at their policies and manifestos. So that reduces the tension in the country. Unlike in South Africa, we have a completely, parties that go right, that go left, and it's a difficult situation. Then we have countries like Eswatini, which still has the monarchy. You don't actually know who's in charge there, whether it's the prime minister or the king. The same with the kingdom of Lesotho. But the southern part of the continent, southern countries, even more south, much more stable when except Mozambique here and then Zimbabwe, but much more stable when it comes to political parties. The problem becomes the central part of the continent. I think the ECOWAS has resolved its problems.
Sure.
Those who believe in democracy and elections like Ghana, Nigeria, you can stick to your processes. We, the coup belt countries, we are okay and happy.
We're going to start our own thing.
We are going to start our own thing.
Which is also okay.
It's okay. And look what happened in Burkina Faso in the past week. Do you know that President, he's not president, Captain Traore, remember he had promised that he will stay in power temporarily until things are settled. He has chased France away. So he went to parliament. Or government, because there's no real parliament there, and announced that now he's ready to can call for elections. The people took the streets. The people in Burkina Faso protested to say to their military leader, you are not calling elections here. We don't want democracy. You stay there. Now. The people have spoken, fresh. The people have spoken in
fact,
Faso.
if anything, that is democracy.
That is democracy. The nation in Kenya, the people take the streets and say to the president, come down, we don't want you anymore. In Burkina Faso, people take the streets and say to the president, you stay there. You are doing a good, don't tell us about elections. We want you there. We'll tell you when we don't want you anymore. For me, that is democracy.
Yes, sir.
Not this thing of democracy that is imposed on people. It's the people telling the leader, you are doing a good job. You came here by military coup. The army supported you, but in the last 2 years, you have done tremendously well. Burkina Faso is got the fastest growing economy in Africa, one of the top 10 in the world. Stay just where you are, we are happy with you. For me, that is democracy. You can take the British, American imperialist democracy and throw it into the bin. When the people speak and leaders listen to the people, that's the kind of situation that we should look at.
Sure. You also wanted to discuss military practice in Botswana.
Oh, yes. Again, in the middle of all these elections, the Americans have set up a base. They've always been there. But now they've just went into an agreement with Botswana. So 2 days in August. It's in August. They are going to have a military practice. Obviously, it's the ground and air forces, because there's no sea and all that. But again, I was asking myself, was it wise for Botswana to can accede to that when there's so much tension in the world at the moment? Was it, I think, and they've got elections coming. America is going into elections. There's a war with Ukraine. What is Botswana saying? But again, somebody may say to me, Botswana, you are unfair. Because when South Africa has the same with Russia in the middle of the Russia-Ukraine war, it's okay for South Africa to do it. 3 weeks back, we discussed how America went into a practice in the Asiatic Sea with Japan and South Korea. So these things are happening. But I had to wish countries like Botswana, which are very peaceful countries, they would stay away from this military involvement with countries like the USA, and because we have seen how the presence of the Americans in Kenya has actually invited insurgents as well as, the so-called terrorist attacks in Kenya. You don't want to destabilize. Me and you, we spoke about how peaceful Kenya has been, but we should not forget that in the last, say 20 years, there's been a lot of Islamic resistant movement attacks in Kenya due to the Americans present in Kenya. And I don't think Botswana wants to find themselves in that situation where people in SADC or neighboring countries or the enemies of the U.S. will start seeing them as a springboard to the Americans. I don't say they should not have bilateral relations. I mean, we know that America is supplying them with jets, military jets in terms of the exchange program, and they train their soldiers. I mean, many other people have trained there. President Kagame himself was trained by the Americans and the Canadians. We don't say those things should not happen, exchange of programs, an exchange of skills and leadership. But the timing of when is it done, it's very crucial.
But is it ever the right time, though?
I wouldn't go into military practices or engagements when there's wars that have divided the world. There's battles, there's wars that has divided the world at the moment. And I would have not gone, look, the bilateral agreement will be there, but I would have not gone into such practices. Being a peaceful country, a peace-loving country, during the time of your neighbor South Africa taking the Americans and the British to ICJ, not at that time.
What of the feeling that surely at the time of turmoil and war is where you check your alliances?
Yeah.
And you check who's where.
Yes.
Where do people stand on certain issues? That we'd like to have war games for 2 days.
Yes.
Let's have war games for 2 days.
Who's from the military, me or you? You now speak like a military person. No, fairly speaking, that's one you should do that, so that you know if something erupts, you know where your alliance is.
Absolutely.
Again, if you talk from a military strategy, military bound, that is the right thing to do.
Yeah.
But I don't see Botswana, and I was checking from a point that I don't see Botswana as a warmongering, war fighting. I don't say a country must not have an army and must not be ready for an event. By the way, you have an army not because you are going to engage in a war. You are having an army in case a war erupts. You should be able to defend yourself. And looking at it from a military point of view, you are correct. They must take allies. But I would have wished that my neighbors, my maternal grandmother's land must not get involved into such. Botswana are very peaceful people.
No, but isn't that one of the reasons that whenever there's a peacekeeping force, more often than not, the Botswana troops are more popular
than
all the other UN troops wherever they're deployed?
And they've got flags of the most disciplined.
Yeah.
You will never find them involved in cases of rape and raw murders and capturing of people. Look at the good role. Botswana is a very small country, a small army, but look at the role they played in the current situation in Mozambique.
Absolutely.
Botswana is there, I think, followed by Rwanda. But they've deployed ground forces in boots, and I think they are playing a very, very good peacekeeping role in the continent wherever they are wanted as members of the African Union peacekeeping force. And for that, I applaud Botswana to say they are using their military personnel and forces for the right things.
Absolutely. Let's wrap it up. We've been on for an hour, you know that.
Really?
Yeah.
Hey, let's just gonna kill us.
Let's wrap it up quickly with the Trump assassination attempt.
Yes.
Yes, sir. What are your views? What are your thoughts? Where do you stand with all the conspiracies that abound?
And they keep on popping up. The latest during the course of the week was that Iran has been having a plot. You see, that's how the Americans operate.
I mean, for instance, I was at the shooting range last year, and I hit a small plate that is smaller than Donald Trump's head. And I was twice the distance of that guy.
Yes.
Twice the distance of that guy. And I don't own a rifle. I was just a guest at the shooting range.
Yeah.
Surely a guy that owns a rifle would not miss.
Nah, and surely a true sniper fresh.
Yeah.
I've used guns, I've collected guns, and somebody said, no, these snipers of America, do you think they are good? They are good in movies. In real life, they are not that good in the Secret Service. Look, first of all, where do I stand? Was that your question?
Yes.
I like Donald Trump.
Was it an assassination attempt or was it Hollywood?
I think it was Hollywood fresh. And I'll tell you why. I'll give you 2 or 3 reasons why I think it was Hollywood. Number one, a sniper or an assassin at that level.
But you're a 20-year-old who owns a rifle.
No, but remember, in the USA, you buy guns and ammunition like you buy fat cakes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So that part to say he's too young to be a sniper. No. But the US is a militarized state. At age 16, people are already training in. So at age 18 or 19, you can be a very good sniper. So for me, age is immaterial. Look, I was at age 17. Trained to assemble an AK-47 in less than 20 seconds. So for me, it doesn't surprise me that somebody at age 20 in a militarized state like the US and access to ammunition.
Sure.
You know, one of the reports from the FBI, Federal Bureau of Investigation, says he bought rounds of ammunition, a bulk of them, about 2 weeks before that shooting. So he went to the store and he bought them. Okay, so it's clear that there was a plan to this whole thing. But there were people who were standing there, who were interviewed, and I saw them live, saying they saw this person climbing and they warned the police.
Yeah.
And the police did nothing. That's the second part. The third part is you don't take a sniper rifle without a silencer when you are going to assassinate the president of the USA without a silencer.
But that dude is not even, he's a child. He's not even like of legal age.
Fresh, I've already explained that. At 20 in the US, you are not a child, you are old and you have been militarized. It's a militarized state.
But owning a sniper rifle does not make you a sniper.
No, it doesn't. But clearly he knew how to use it. Clearly he was trained how to use it.
Dude, you can point the pellet gun and shoot. We've been doing that since we were kids.
Well, I think this thing was a bluff. If that person was really a sniper, and they took him off. They took him immediately, so we don't have any evidence of whether he's linked to what. But I looked at the videos.
And why would someone sacrifice themselves for a Hollywood plot?
Oh, why do we believe that that person was killed there for that point? Or was planted there, being shot there after he was killed somewhere? I don't think he sacrificed himself. If he wanted to be a hero, he would have done everything under the sun to kill Trump or to make sure there's an escape route. They say there's no trace that he worked with anybody else.
Maybe it was a one-way trip.
That you want to leave the world. Maybe
No,
if you
it's a one-way trip. I know I'm not going to make it out alive.
Yeah.
But to save my country, I believe this guy should be taken out of the race.
Well, I don't know. I don't buy that story. I also looked at the conduct of what do you call it, secret services.
Secret service, yeah.
I look at their conduct. I mean, fresh people who are trained in that field. You take over when such an incident happens. You take over the president. He's no longer the president at that time. They will actually cover him. They allowed this guy to look for his shoes. Where are my shoes? Screaming. They were open. They allowed him to still open up his body and raise his hand. And yeah.
But I could argue that they allowed that because they'd been told that the shooter has been neutralized.
Has been silenced, yes.
That the shooter has been neutralized.
Yeah.
So
there's no threat.
The threat has been neutralized.
Yes.
Obviously, you don't know if there's other shooters or not.
That was going to be my second point.
So you can't afford to have the president and his chest out.
And his chest
and
out,
his feast
exactly
there.
being a Mandela of the US at that time. I'm saying they did not know. Let's assume they did not know that there's a shooter. Secondly, they did not know how many of the shooters are there. You neutralize one. How do you know that there's others? How do you know that there may be a self-automated machine gun planted somewhere that exposed the president? You understand what I'm saying? The whole situation was clumsy. I'm glad President Trump was not killed.
Sure.
Because, to be honest, I want him to win the American elections for personal reasons. I think if Trump is the president in the US,
Sure.
there'll be more peace in the world. I think so. These so-called Democrats, if you look at the American history, they are warmongers, including Barack Obama, including their favorite, what is the guy, Monica Lewinsky's boyfriend, President Clinton. They are warmongers, you understand? They killed more people, they started more wars. I think President Trump, if there was really an assassination attempt on him, it will be the people who are like in NATO, who see him as a stumbling block to can continue with wars in the world and American militarily. He's a businessman, you understand? He is going to focus on business and to build a country. America must be great again if there was an attempt. But I think also those who want to take him up, if this was an attempt to take Donald Trump out, then they did a very clumsy job. your argument to say
It's a lone shooter with zero
it's a lone shooter with
experience.
zero
He owns
or
a
with zero
rifle.
motives to say, let me just take this person out. That boy, then he must have been very stupid to do that. But
Trump was just very lucky, because if you look at other footage that shows you that had he not moved his head
his
at
head,
that
yeah,
moment,
yes,
because that bullet was
would
meant to hit
avoid
his
it.
temple.
Yes.
But because he moved his head, literally the angle changed.
Now, do you believe me when I say, don't undermine that to say he's an amateur? Because the reason that bullet missed, if there was a bullet, by the way, the reason the reason the bullet missed Trump, it's not because the shooter was not accurate. It is because Trump moved his head at the right time, and that's why it hit the ear. Look, Fresh. Another thing is, you were at the shooting range. I've not been shot, but I've talked to people who have been shot.
Yeah.
When a bullet hits you, especially when it doesn't penetrate your body, you don't feel it immediately. You just feel a hit.
A bit of warmth.
Warmth, and after some time, and I'm basing this on what I've heard from people and what I've read. You understand? If it penetrates, if it ever went into the ear, but it chipped out, you would not feel that at that moment. You feel some heat or warmth in your body after a lapse of time.
But you see the blood.
But you start seeing the blood.
Yeah.
Trump moved his hand before there was even blood. He moved his hand. If you look at that video, scrutinize it, get a very good gadget.
Because something has nicked my ear.
Yeah.
So I will check. What is this?
After how long, the time the bullet hits a target, especially a human being, to after, like I said, if it was hitting where it penetrates a bone or a muscle, the ear there, and Trump is very lucky. I saw a joke saying the Brits are worried now. If it was King Charles Touchwood, he'd have not missed the ear because the ears are so wide open. But I don't know. If this was Hollywood, which is what I believe, it has done well for Trump. President Biden came and talked like an American. President Obama came and talked. Typical Americans, they came and they rallied after this. This has now put more pressure on President Biden to resign by his own political party to not stand for elections. But Trump has behaved like President Ramaphosa and President Zuma more in South Africa. He has managed to rise to the occasion under very difficult circumstances. They couldn't stop him from elections by taking him to court and charging him. Now they want to put him down. That's the story, in the first. They couldn't jail me. They couldn't stop me. Now they want to blow my head off.
By any means necessary.
By any means necessary, this man must never rise to power. And I think the condemning of the incident by the sitting president of the U.S. and the previous one, it was a good thing, even if they are from the different political parties. So look, it's a wait-and-see situation, but it has worked to his advantage. I'm glad he's alive. With that wound, he's got money, he can go and have plastic to fix the ear. But I think the American Secret Services, they must up their game. What I saw there, it's very clumsy.
It was Mickey Mouse.
No, it's Mickey Mouse.
Very Mickey Mouse.
It was, and Donald Duck, Mickey Mouse and Donald Duck were there. It was very clumsy. That's not how you become a marksman and protect the head of state. And that's why it makes me believe that this whole thing was plotted. And you asked me as well to say, but there are other people who died. The gentleman who was behind Donald Trump was shot, and another person was shot. And people were saying, will they really kill their people for such? Americans have killed their own people for such many times. They've done it in the armies in Iraq. They've done it everywhere. They've killed their own. They've bombed themselves again. Look at 9/11.
Many still believe 9/11 itself was a whole Hollywood wagging the dog.
If
create the problem and then tell people, let's save you from the problem.
Exactly. They create their own problems. They can deny it as they wish. If you know how good or they are portrayed to be the best military in the world, how does aircraft go and enter an airspace not detected, not 1, 2 aircrafts and things like that? One even ends up landing in the Pentagon, which is supposed to be the safest place on earth. So the Americans have created these problems. It will not be surprising for me that they will kill their own in order to create a story. And what if they can kill thousands of their own by saying, what's wrong with 2 or 3 people? For them. For me, as a normal human African man, every life matters. But the Americans have done it. It doesn't surprise me.
Sure.
But again, I'm happy President Trump is alive.
Sure.
And he survived this assassination attempt. I want the American elections, Botswana elections, Rwanda is gone. Let all these elections pass so that we can have our lives and move on.
Absolutely. As always, a sharpshooter. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Brother Fresh.
Where do we find you on social media?
botsangm@gmail.com and
Sure.
at botsangm on social media handles, and 082-485-9100 is the number to reach me on WhatsApp.
Wow, what a week indeed it was. A shout out to our sharpshooter, Botsang Modimowame Moiloa, for this episode of #PoliTricks. Coming to you from AMP Studios, downtown Johannesburg. We're part of the Africa Podcast Network. Email us at waw@africapodcastnetwork.com. If you'd like to have yourself look as good as we do on camera, get in touch with Trevor Zondi and his guys at Pezulu Works. They'll shoot anything for you. They don't shoot presidents though, but they will shoot any event. So get in touch with Pezulu Works. Shout out to Otis the Flow Fraser for all of our imaging, and our executive producer, our mother, Keletso Mudisakeng. Till next week, have a wow week in spite of yourselves.
Cut.